Welcome to Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse, a podcast exploring cult classics, subculture, and geek media. I'm Nick.
And I'm Dave.
And we will be your tour guides for this deep dive of Ron Howard's 1988 swashbuckling fairy tale adventure, Willow.
This movie is like a Wish version of The Lord of the Rings.
I had almost that same exact thought this morning as I was driving to work, because I was... kind of brainstorming episode titles, and then I was like, you order The Hobbit on Wish, and you get Willow.
Pretty much. Carrying a baby, not a ring.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's this is kind of a George Lucas flick.
Yeah.
And he's kind of a hack.
George doesn't mind things being very on the nose
and super derivative.
Yeah, because he's really into that Joseph Campbell thing, like monomyth, hero's journey.
Oh, yeah.
He just he likes the classics, and he likes to keep it simple and something that everyone can follow. Everyone understands it intuitively. You look at it, you know who's the good guy and who's the bad guy.
Oh yeah,
it's just
the bad guys have skulls on their helmets.
Yeah,
and wear black armor.
It's very simplistic, but also classical.
Yeah, I'm harshing on this, but I actually enjoyed this movie, and I enjoyed it when I was a kid. I've seen it a lot of times. I've probably seen this movie 10 times or so.
Yeah.
And it's a good one. It's one of Val Kilmer's best.
I do love Val Kilmer in this. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Val Kilmer. I watched that documentary he made about himself, or his son made about him. And it's really moving. I really think highly of that guy. And this is him and his ascendant, right? It's kind of one of his early breakout roles. It's Before the Doors, I think. Yeah, it's definitely Before the Doors. Before Tombstone, before Heat, all that, his
Tombstone,
really.
Tombstone, such a good one.
Yeah, but this was a movie. I remember when this movie came out, not wanting to see it. It seemed too kiddie for me. I remember thinking, it seemed like a kid's movie, and I was probably 10, and it had moving beyond kids movies.
Oh man.
And I think my parents wanted to see it, and my good buddy Jason, and we went and saw this. And I don't know, by the time you get to the two-headed dragon, I was so on board with this movie. I went from fine, I'll go see Willow, it's a baby movie, to do you see that ugly dick-headed dragon?
What is with that? If you can make a dragon, why would you make a two-headed penisaur? It's a Penisaurus Rex.
Yeah, I think they just let Phil Tippett go nuts. They're like, make a two-headed dragon. It's can look like anything. They're sure. I mean, as long as it has two heads and breathes fire,
dragon,
it's
come on.
Oh, you okay?
Get ready. Yeah, so this movie was a big success. It made a lot of money. It had a $35 million budget, and it had a $137 million box office. That's pretty huge.
That's very huge in 1988. That's a lot of dollars.
It was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, Best Sound Editing and Best Visual Effects, but it lost both of those awards to, do you know?
In 88? I don't.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Okay, that's fair. Roger Rabbit is incredible.
It had better visual effects than this.
Yeah, but this has the first on-screen digital morphing, where they invented the technology to do it.
To the pig scene, right?
No, the Good Witch, when she shapeshifts through all the different animals.
Oh, okay.
That was the first time that had been done, and they were literally writing software as they did it.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, so this it's a bit like Dragon Slayer in that this is one of these in between ILM movies where they were leveling up their effects.
Yeah, they were using this as a vehicle for their nonsense. Yeah, I was pretty surprised to see that it had 2 Academy Award nominations. That's pretty huge. And it was just such a box office smash. Critics mostly liked it during the time. It got panned by a couple of people. Yeah. But generally speaking, it was a well-received movie overall. I definitely think that it shows its age pretty heavily. And I think a lot of that has to do how ambitious it was
Yeah.
in its what the CGI and all of that. Like a lot of that looks really old now, whereas movies that didn't do as much of that, like
Right.
Conan, they did a lot more practical effects. That movie feels fresher than this.
I can see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, I think this is a pretty modern looking movie, though. I mean,
Sure.
Relatively speaking, of the, the 5 movies, as we've kind of covered the 80s, there's almost a 90s vibe to this one. Like we're getting there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It felt dated to me, but I also still really enjoyed the adventure. It was a good adventure.
Did you ever watch that Willow show on Disney Plus that they've already pulled down?
No, I haven't seen it.
I'm a little frustrated because I would watch it now because we just got to this a little bit late. We've been talking about doing this movie forever, and we wanted to do it when the show came out, and then the timing wasn't quite right then. And then I did not expect Disney Plus to pull the show off after it ran.
Yeah, I guess it didn't get good reviews. It wasn't popular.
Yeah, and they, the part of why all the actors and the writers are on strike, it has to do with the royalties. They don't want to pay royalties. So if a show's not generating streams, they're just taking them down.
Yeah, so nobody's getting passive income off of it. And all of that, and that's pretty bullshit. I support the Screen Actors Guild
definitely.
and the Writers Guild. Yeah, they need to pay them.
Okay. Well, do you want to roll for initiative and get to our news?
Oh, nat 20. This is the first time I got a 20. Oh my God.
Double 20s.
We got double 20s on the last episode of Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse. The last time we roll for initiative.
That's inexplicable.
That is insane.
Do you want to do a tiebreaker, a paper, rock, scissors? How do you want to
proceed?
Let's do a
tiebreaker. Let's just roll again.
Okay.
That'd be fine. I got a 17.
18.
Wow, we got some high rolls.
Hot dice today.
Damn, we should play some D&D.
All right, my first one, I've got a couple of pieces of news that came out of San Diego Comic-Con last weekend. Shinichiro Watanabe, the creator of Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo, is launching a new anime project on Adult Swim. It's called Lazarus, and he's got some interesting collaborators. John Wick director Chad Stahelski is designing the action sequences for it, and jazz legend Kamasi Washington is doing the music.
Oh, that's going to be cool.
Yeah. And, I've watched a few episodes of Cowboy Bebop. I've never gotten deep into it, but I love Samurai Champloo. I think that show was so good.
I've never seen it.
It's a fairly short series, so it's very bingeable. And the music is very front and center in it, like kind of like lo-fi hip hop music and stuff. And it's just got a really cool vibe. It's set in like the later part of feudal Japan. And yeah, I definitely recommend that. And that pedigree makes me very interested in this. And so that it's going to air. There's not a date for it yet, but it's going to air on the Adult Swim, hour of the Cartoon Network, the evening on Cartoon Network. Yeah. And then probably be streaming on Hulu next day, I would assume.
Wow. That sounds cool. So I have 3, but I'm going to combine 2 of them into one.
Okay.
First of all, I'm going to be the Grim Reaper this time, and I'm going to say, rest in peace, Paul Rubens.
Oh, that one just happened today.
Yeah. I would not have, I normally don't do these obit ones, but who didn't love Pee-wee's Playhouse and Buffy the Vampire Slayer? You know,
we got the steak.
Big Top Pee-wee. Yeah. So good. So good. Yeah, Paul Rubens, he had a good run. He was 70 years old, and he died of cancer, which, 70 is a good run. It's not quite the average life expectancy, so it is young. Yeah,
I didn't know. Apparently, he's been fighting cancer for quite a while, and I don't think he was very public about that because I didn't know about it.
Want to be, that kind of thing.
It's sad.
But yeah, it's kind of a bummer. But he was a great entertainer. I watched his show a lot when I was a kid. So
it's an interesting thing. I don't think Paul Rubin ever set out to be a children's entertainer. He kind of came from that like guerrilla theater, punk rock kind of world. Yeah. And this Pee-wee was one of his characters that he would do.
Yeah.
And then it just ran away from him, and he had and that sort of thing.
Chase the money.
Yeah, you just hold on and try to keep getting those checks while you can. So,
I mean, very quotable. I would very often, when I was a kid, walk into a room and say, "Large Marge sent me."
Definitely.
All right, what else?
My other one was another piece because the studios all skipped because of the strike. All skipped Comic-Con, so there's actual like comic information was coming out, and so Warner Brothers and Legendary announced Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, a 6-issue comic book crossover.
Oh, that sounds.
And
meh.
they made 7-issue. They made a kind of like a movie style trailer for it. And Brian Buccoletto is writing it, and artist Christian Deuce, who did Batman Fortnite 0 Point. And this is just sort of one of those weird confluence of things where it's like, okay, I've been trailing off buying comics and getting less and less, but I'll have to buy Justice League versus Godzilla. I can't not buy that one.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm on board with Justice League versus Godzilla.
All right, my last one is just a couple of new things to stream, so I won't dwell on them too long. Season 2 of The Wheel of Time, they dropped their official trailer.
Yeah.
That's coming September 1st. The trailer is badass. It's a long trailer. It's like 2.5 minutes, and it's a really good one.
It looks like some of the budgetary problems of season 1 have been resolved.
Yeah, because it crushed records and stuff. So yeah, it's looking really mighty fine. And then the other one is a show that we both love, which is Reservoir Dogs, that airs
Reservation Dogs.
Yeah. Sorry, August 3rd. So we're gonna get season 3 on August 3rd,
and this is
just
the final
a couple of days.
season.
Yeah, they're only gonna give us 2 episodes to start, and then they'll do weekly episodes after that.
Oh, okay.
Which I think that's how it's been, and that's on Hulu, which also has the best show on TV, which is What We Do in the Shadows, which currently in the middle of that season.
That's the best show. I like Reservation Dogs better.
Yeah, both of them are really good. They're totally different.
Warrior's back on HBO Max. That's what I've been catching up on that, and This Fool, which was a show I recommended a few months back, is back for season 2.
Yeah, I saw season 2 popped up, and I never finished season 1. So.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so that's all I got for news. Do we want to move on to Podcast Fuel?
Yeah, let's do it. Our Podcast Fuel today is from Culmination Brewing here in Portland, Oregon, and it's the Hobbit, an unexpected hazy. The Hobbit is a New Zealand hazy with a medley of hops native to Middle Earth, flavors of lemon, lime, citrus fruit, and lychee. It's got Nelson, Motueka, Waimea, and Wakotu hops. It's a 6.5 ABV, and since we were watching Dollar Store Hobbit, I thought that we'd have some Hobbit themed beer.
It's good. No complaints at all. I like it. It's citrusy. It's tasty. It's a good one.
Yeah, I like this. So obviously hazy IPAs are also called New England IPAs. But this one, since it's got all the New Zealand hops, we're inventing a new style, I guess, the New Zealand hazy.
There's nothing that prevents you from inventing styles. You can do whatever you want.
Exactly. Let's take a break and get into the Willow. Welcome back, divers. Let's dive into Willow, 1988, directed by Ron Howard. After discovering a mysterious baby in a raft, an aspiring sorcerer must undertake an epic quest to get the child to a distant kingdom in order to fulfill her destiny, making friends and avoiding pursuit along the way.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty straight up and to the point. You got to take the baby who is destined to become a queen who will overthrow the evil sorceress, which was basically like, so it's like they have a biblical scene to open, and then they got to overthrow like a Disney villain.
She is very like evil queen, Disney evil queen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's it's very mythological, very biblical, very broad strokes. You know this story. As soon like when they put the baby into the raft of reeds and set it into the creek, like you know exactly what you're getting into. It's very fairy tale-ish.
Yeah, and it's interesting. They never name the fantasy world that they're in. And my entire life, I've really just never been hoping to know more about this place.
Really?
See, I try to throw you for a loop there because I always say I want to play a role-playing game
in this
setting. Not this one.
This one?
This is the most basic bitch fantasy you could possibly invent.
Well,
there's an evil army, and you know they're evil because, as I previously mentioned, their armor is black, but also it's all Eastern style. It's not Western European, which means it's evil.
Right. It looks like generally how the orcs in Lord of the Rings were traditionally portrayed.
It's like Saracen armor from the Crusades.
Yeah, Saracen armor, but with like jagged choppers instead of scimitars and stuff.
Yeah, and I say all that stuff super cheeky because the divers out there don't know that. I hate it when they do that. Men of the East are evil, like Tolkien did, and all that stuff. Like basically, white good, dark bad.
Except for they are all white.
They're white, but all the cultural trappings are like dog whistles. Like
it's true. No, I can't. But I do think it's like if you look at the old illustrations, like the pre Peter Jackson illustrations of Lord of the Rings, they're wearing orc armor. Like,
yeah, they are.
They're dressed
they're classical orc armor.
Yeah, they're dressed the way orcs and goblins used to be portrayed.
I wish they were orcs and goblins.
Yeah, I don't think the budget was there for that. Even when we got trolls, they were just again kind of like mini Wookiees.
Did they need to portray a full village of over 200 little people? They could have used that money on orcs.
Since you bring that up, it was the largest casting call, I think it still is, of little people in a movie. And so,
most of them weren't actors. And so they just were like, they weren't acting like actors do.
They literally, like, many of them didn't speak English. Like, they combed Europe to get enough little people to populate the Nelwyn village.
Yeah.
And so, but the village, I mean, it's a very like lived in realistic village. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's
talk about
storytelling
and writing. So one thing that I think that this movie does really well is the characters themselves. Each one is pretty developed and relatable.
Yeah,
like you're able to relate to Willow. He's like a dad. He doesn't want to take on this nonsense, but he's also a dad, so he knows he can't just let the baby get turned away, so
right.
he's very relatable. Like he's motivated by the love of his wife and his children, and for that reason he has to be a good man,
right? Like
he can't let them down. And so he's a good complex character. Mad Mardigan he's interesting. He's definitely this charming rogue archetype who's very selfish, but he has the full Han Solo arc where he finds some redemption. He becomes kind of a good guy. I mean, really, Mad Mardigan is fantasy Han Solo.
He is so Han Solo-ish, like in his behavior. Like I almost wondered if like Val Kilmer studied Star Wars like before playing this, because it is so Han Solo-y. Yeah,
but it's Han Solo in like homage, not bad imitation.
Yeah,
like I thought it was great.
I do. I really loved the characters. Like we said earlier, this is based on a story by George Lucas, and then the screenplay is written by Bob Dolman. Lucas is an idea man, right? Like he's not a good word man. He's not a good wordsmith, and that as evidence.
He's no James Cameron.
Evidence. Watch the prequel trilogies. Dialogue is not his strong suit, but he's good at these sort of big ideas,
Sure.
And so I think Dolman did a good job of taking what I'm sure was a very simple concept, so simple that, I mean, it is just sort of a trimmed down Lord of the Rings, and making it into a compelling narrative. He took that core and made it into something. And Ron Howard, this is a guy, since this, he has 2 Academy Awards under his belt. Yeah. He's a very competent director.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think, especially at this point, I don't think he had a ton of his own style. I think he's doing Lucas House style.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, this is not very deep into his resume, and it's a pretty big budget movie, and he acquits himself well with it.
Yeah, and I think according, like you were talking about Bob Dolman and his writing a decent punch up of a basic idea.
Yeah.
He keeps the story is simultaneously predictable, but also you stay engaged because it twists, it moves. I'm not going to say it had good pacing or tempo, but the beats were entertaining. Like, you've got this whole hero's journey. There's a call to action early on from the wizard, and then a denial, and then a later call to action by a fairy princess. I don't know what that lady was.
It's Cate Blanchett in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's your
Galadriel.
Budget Galadriel. We know who it was. That was Budget Galadriel, and and that was the real call to action. But it was all mostly it was mostly engaging. Like when they meet up with Mad Mardigan, when they meet up with the brownies, and all of that.
I'm sure we'll get into this, but are you a brownie hater? I'm a brownie hater. I'll just say that.
So when I was a kid, I was pro brownie.
Oh, really? Okay.
Now that I'm an adult, I'm a little like, it's so overdone. It's overacted. It's overblown. But the one with the mouse hood was my favorite one. He's dope.
I do like that bit of costuming, the mouse hood. Yeah. I have like a hatred of brownies that I've carried with me from this movie through my whole life.
That's interesting.
Like even like our last D&D game, we had a toughing, and I think I took out some of my...
You straight up attacked the goodly fairies for being pranksters.
I know, and it's like, that was my, like, I really hate these guys in Willow, and I'm going to squish them. Like, I've always...
And you did.
I've always wanted to squish the brownies. I don't know why. Usually I'm so tolerant of these things, but they just get under my skin.
So, I mean, another one of my points in this was basically like the humor in the movie. That's another thing that I put that in the win column for this movie. The brownies are constant. They're kind of like this movie's Jar Jar Binks.
That's fair.
I don't hate them. I don't love them either. But there's also some just amazing, funny one-liners that stuck with me through my whole childhood. Like when Mad Mardigan is in drag, because cross-dressing has been around forever, Bugs Bunny, etc.
Yeah.
We're not pushing a woke agenda. This has just been a thing for a long time.
I love that whole thing. And what does the husband say to him? He's like,
my favorite thing, he goes, "Wanna breed?" And he goes, "Tempting." Me and Heath used to say that shit at school so much. That was my childhood buddy. And he's the humor is great. Like, Val Kilmer is really funny in this movie.
And so you mentioned the pacing a second ago, and I would say the pacing of this movie is great.
After the first act.
Yeah, well, kind of like
the first
even
act
the 2/3 of it, I think it's paced really briskly and trucks right along. It's kind of not till like the end where we have double castle sieges that I feel like it bogs down.
I really feel like this movie is bookended. It's like the very beginning is slow and boring, and the end is slow and boring.
Okay.
And it's weird to call it slow and boring when it's a castle siege, but there are too many climaxes in this movie.
Yes.
There's like 4 climaxes, and I'm like, come on, I guess maybe that's your jam. But no, this is a little too much. And then I guess the other thing that I was going to say about it is that you've already touched on is in the storytelling and the writing and all of that, they found a way to make a movie that's kind of universally relatable. Yeah. Like anyone can watch this and find something that they like interesting because it has so many classic things, and everyone likes classics. They're classic for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably it for storytelling.
All right, let's get into visuals, cinematography, and production design.
So Adrian Biddle is the cinematographer. this is not the first time we're talking about him, because he was the cinematographer on Aliens, which we covered just recently. And that guy knows how to use a camera. Like, I don't think that's a controversial statement. Yeah. He is really good at taking pictures. Especially, like, there's some really cool either crane or helicopter shots of them trucking through New Zealand and stuff like that you could drop into Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings without them seeming amiss.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh, it's Aragorn.
And little Frodo running along. Yeah, it's I think the cinematography was very strong.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it was shot really well. Mm-hmm. It was cut really well. I think the action sequences are really, really interestingly assembled. It's not extremely groundbreaking, but it moves it right along. Like the battles, there's a lot of them. Mm-hmm. It's cutting from place to place. It's the camera angles are high and low. It's just well done.
I think that it was pretty influential visually, like, because I could think of like just a few years after this, you have like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I think owes a lot to this movie visually.
I love that movie.
Yeah, I think that this movie kind of made a modern fantasy look, and that part of that also is the production design from Alan Cameron, and he was the same production designer on the last movie we talked about, which is kind of interesting. This guy has come up twice in a row. But I really like the aesthetic of this movie, and I think it's been very influential. And I think in particular, we talked about it, the Nelwyn village with its 200 little people is very well realized. Like, it looks like a world that little people live in.
Yeah, I think that was one of my bullet points, is that the sets, it all looks really good. The places are great. The castles look good. There's like the towns that they go into, the various ones, and basically it's just like everywhere that the people are just looks awesome.
Yeah.
The set designers and overall production value was really high quality.
Like that the tavern, like where we talk about Mad Mardigan, where he's disguising himself as a lady to sneak out of there. That's such a classic D&D tavern that you show up at. Rooms upstairs and the bar downstairs, and it just like I don't know if that was the classic image of the D&D inn beforehand, but it became the one afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know. But there's definitely there's a theme like this. These are all playing on ideas of things that you kind of have in the back of your head.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
I mean, I guess you have, because that's where we're at the Prancing Pony, where they find Aragorn, right? Like, it is part of, if you're doing your dollar store Lord of the Rings, that's one of the places you have to go to.
That's where you got to meet up with Aragorn and Mad Mardigan. I think that the costuming was really good. I enjoyed the way that people looked throughout the movie. I thought that the arms and armor were pretty good. I didn't like orcish stuff, but whatever. Mad Mardigan always looked cool. Like the armor suit that he found is iconic. With the
I love his gold armor. Yeah,
pauldrons and everything. Willow looked really cool. I like the wizard from his village.
The great Billy Barty as the High Aldwin, I think was his name. Awesome old wizard.
Yeah, and I think this is we were gonna rank the wizards, weren't we?
Oh, I've got a series of fantasy film questions for the end of this for you.
Oh man, great.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that the costumes and the sets were all really good.
Barbara Lane's the costume designer, and I have here in my notes. I can't wait to hear what Dave thinks about the armor in this movie.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it was fantasy armor, but they weren't trying to be historical.
Yeah,
so that's okay.
Yeah, and Commander Kale with his skull face helmet, so badass. He's just
second best skull helmet in this series after the Kurgan.
After the Kurgan, yeah, and I think the Kurgan probably is more functional, like better visibility.
Yeah, for sure. If you've ever fought in a closed face helmet, it sucks balls.
Yeah, Kurgan's helmet more functional, although probably better protection for Commander Kale.
Oh yeah.
But Commander Kale's not immortal. So he needs to protect his face. Yeah. What about audio?
So I think that the score is awesome. James Horner.
Yeah.
I love the sweeping orchestral stuff with the driving percussion that he included in there. I feel like it was well placed to create moments of excitement, but also it was kind of whimsical when it needed to be, and it was somber when it needed to be. I just think that overall the music was really good. And I thought it was cool how certain characters had themes.
Yeah.
Like, I love those themes. Like, the Bavmorda theme is awesome. It's kind of like Darth Vader having a theme. You know?
And again, that was the thing. I hate to diminish it at all because I think it is a really strong score, but it feels Lucasfilm-esque, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, it's got that. It reminds me of Star Wars. It reminds me of Indiana Jones. It just like gives me Lucas vibes.
It seems like they told James Horner, like, the Star Wars guy is making a fantasy.
Yeah.
You need to make that version of the soundtrack.
Yeah. And so there's a little bit of that element of pastiche to it. But again, I think he does an excellent job. He does the assignment well.
Yeah, he nailed it.
Yeah. And then I don't really have any notes about Ben Burtt, the sound designer, although I feel like I should have since you said he was nominated for an Academy Award.
Yeah, I mean, they did a good job of syncing up combat sounds and emphasizing things like the hoofbeats of the horses are ominous and they're appropriate. And I mean, but I don't really know if that stands out to me if I wasn't really listening for sound design.
Yeah.
And maybe at a certain point, sound design that fades into the background is the most effective sound
It's
design.
doing its job. Yeah. When it doesn't like glare at you. I'll tell you, the sound of like the devil dogs to this day creeps me out. Those dogs creep me so much.
I really like those dogs a lot. I was like, oh, I love these little wargs.
Yeah, so they're actual Rottweilers.
Yeah, with costumes
in
on.
costumes. Yeah,
I love that.
And or they're puppets for like when they're savaging someone because it's too dangerous to have a Rottweiler chew on a little person.
A little Fraggle Rock.
And those are good dogs to wear that costume.
Well trained.
Yeah, that's not an easy thing for a dog. Themes and motifs. My first one, and this is from Lucas directly. He said that his movies are generally about the little guy taking on the system, and he wanted to make it literally a little guy, like so that the little guy, a little person, represents the little person in the big metaphorical sense.
Yeah. And that's cool. And they named it after him. And so it's very clear who this movie's about.
Yeah.
I don't know, like themes and motifs. There's a lot of things you could throw in here. But they're all the classic things. Good versus evil, the importance of family, and the real treasure are the friends we made along the way. Self-discovery. You have to become yourself, and until you believe in yourself, you can't do anything. And then blah blah blah. These are just the same ones from Star Wars.
They're the most basic ones. Yeah. But I mean, you've kind of covered everything. I said the little guy versus the oppressor, belief in oneself and the greater cause. Like, you have to believe in something. Like, because that's Mad Mardigan's arc, right? Like, where he's the failed soldier.
He's a nihilist. He believes in nothing.
But we want the money, Lebowski. But he finds something to believe in with Willow gives him something to believe in and to fight for. Yeah. And so you got that, and then you just have the Joseph Campbell hero's journey. That's George Lucas's go-to every time.
It resonates with people, and there's a reason. It's in every culture.
But they are the most basic themes. There's not a lot of deeper meaning.
Yeah, there's some little motifs in here that you could talk about, like the power of magic, how that's a central theme, and how magic is a representation of your own of your will to impact change in the world. And how that's sort of a manifestation of self-belief. There's prophecy.
That is the really big theme, right? Because you have at the beginning, Willow goes to the High Alduin, and he doesn't have the confidence in himself to say it's his own finger that can change the world, and that was the correct answer. And then by the end, just with his sleight of hand magic, he saves the day, right? Like, not with sorcery, he does his disappearing pig trick on the baby.
Yeah.
So it's like ultimately Willow he completes his journey.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And there's a few other things. It's tiny things like how the forest is a symbol of magic and mystery, and that's where the power of good comes from natural places and things like that, and how the two-headed dragon represents the power of good and evil and various things. I don't know, two-headed dragon or the dragon eating its own tail, or various serpent themes could be read into here. It's not as obvious as Conan.
Yeah, Conan's big on snakes. Yeah.
I love
that. What's the name of the dragon? Eborsisk, I think, is the name of the dragon. It's Siskel and Ebert's names combined together.
That's funny. No, I didn't know that. That's hilarious. So, I mean, that's all I have for themes and motifs. We're ripping through this.
We are, because it's a light movie.
Simple movie.
Yeah.
Performances. Who did you rank first?
Well, I don't know that
you don't rank them.
I don't know
I
that
normally
this
put them in order of
your preferences. I started with Warwick Davis as Willow Ulfkid.
He is the title character.
He's the title character. The movie is built around him. He has this. He has a really intense charisma, like so much so that when he was an Ewok, it came through. Like his Ewok was a standout character in Return of the Jedi. And they built a movie around him because he has that kind of charm.
They made a whole TV series about him where he starred after this because he was so popular.
Yeah. And so...
The Wizard.
The Wizard?
That's what it was called.
I thought you were talking about the Ewoks cartoon.
Oh, no. No, they made like a live action show.
I don't know that oh, man. I have to look that up because it's only barely ringing a bell.
I could have the name wrong, but I know I watched it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and you always know him even when he's like a goblin in Harry Potter. When Warwick Davis shows up.
It was like 4 goblins in Harry Potter.
You don't get me started on the treatment of goblins in media. I've got a lot of feelings about that. But I think Warwick Davis, as a young man, like 17, 18 years old, when they make this movie, carries the film on his back, and that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the best babysitter of all.
He is. He has love for that Daikini child. Yeah.
Yes. So Val Kilmer has to be next, obviously.
Yes, Val Kilmer is next.
He's my number one, but he's not the title character. He plays Mad Mardigan. Obviously, he's at the height of his charisma here. His star is rising.
Oh, yeah.
He's this rogue warrior guy, the greatest swordsman ever to live, by his own claim. He's pretty good. Val is not so good. His sword stuff is pretty low rank.
I love when he drops his swords and
like even when he's like on and he's winning the fights, it's not very good sword play. Like Viggo Mortensen would slay his ass.
Yeah. Who's been the best swordsman? Because that's not one of my questions. Of all these
of the characters
of these five movies we've watched, the actors.
Oh, that's really tough.
I think Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I think it probably was Arnold because he trained so hard with martial arts masters for so long.
Yeah,
and he's just a physical monster.
He's such an athlete.
He's fast and strong. Yeah, and his sword work was awesome.
But anyways, let's focus on Val Kilmer. There's time for Schwarzenegger
his was
later.
All about wit and humor. Like this character was a fighter, but really he was the comic lead for the movie. He's the one who you can tell he's a rogue with a heart of gold from the beginning.
You know how you know. There's lots of signals.
Because he's handsome. That's how you know.
That's how you know he's good?
Yeah.
No, it's when they're being dragged along behind the cart and he picks up Willow and puts him on his shoulders. That's when you know, because he hasn't had his full face turn at that point. He's still a bit of a scoundrel.
Yeah.
But that's like, you're like, oh, he's good. That's something a good person does.
And one of my favorite scenes is when he and the baby are chewing blackroot.
He was like, my mother raised me on blackroot.
Yeah, because he's sharing his own childhood thing. He's having a moment with the baby.
Yeah. Which, I mean, so that's next up is Kate and Ruth Greenfield and Rebecca Bierman, the three little girls playing Elora Danan.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't write them down because they're just babies. They didn't really perform.
That baby performs when they
those babies perform.
Those babies performs when they point the camera, like when the baby reacts to things.
Do they have the baby's mom standing behind the counter making faces?
Probably. I mean, I don't know how you make a baby act, but whichever of the
with a shock collar.
Yeah, that's an overseas production. You can't
do that in America.
Yeah, in Spain you can do that because they had a fascist junta, but you couldn't do that here. No, but whichever baby gets all the close-ups, because I feel like it's probably one of them that gets the most of the close-ups.
Yeah, and the other ones are sort of stand-in babies.
Yeah, it does good baby faces.
Ginger children. Mm-hmm. So I have Joanne Whaley
as Sorsha.
Sorsha. I really like the character. She's the daughter of Queen Bavmorda, and she's pretty menacing. And then she makes a face turn also when she falls for Mad Mardigan. And I guess her and Val Kilmer got married. Like they met here and they hooked up.
And so he had a crush on her before this, like, because he had seen her in plays in the UK, and I wouldn't be surprised if he took this movie to get close to her
because she was in it.
Yeah, because he was interested in her and aware of her before she was with him. Okay. And they have great chemistry. Like you can see them; they're like falling in love on camera. I really like her. She's underserved in the movie. That was one of the things I discovered watching deleted scenes. She has a whole story arc that's cut out of this movie.
And it was already kind of a long movie, so I guess.
But it's important because I think her face turn doesn't make sense without getting her storyline. It's like she fell in love and turned good, but there's more to the story than that.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And I think that was she was a cool character. She was acted well. Next up, I just had some minor parts, you know, like Jean Marsh as Queen Bavmorda. She does a great job.
Classic Disney evil queen.
Yeah. What was that movie, you know, that Angelina Jolie played the...
Maleficent?
Yeah, she's basically a Maleficent type. Or maybe a Snow White and the Seven Dwarves.
That's the one. She seems more the Snow White queen to me.
Yeah, she's definitely that character. We got Billy Barty as High Aldwin.
Love Billy Barty.
And then Patricia Hayes as the... Glenda the Good Witch.
The Lady Gandalf.
Yeah.
she's Lady Gandalf. I like her.
Lady Gandalf is what I call the lady in Wheel of Time. I always call her that when we're watching the show.
I think Finn Rizal is much more Gandalf-esque. She's got that quirkiness. I bet she'd smoke a pipe if she had one.
Yeah, for sure. She'd eat mushrooms.
Yeah. And what did I have to say about her? I like every time she says Willow in an animal voice, like when she's like go Willow. Like I don't know why that's always stuck with me. That the goat voice when she calls Willow. I like Finn Rizal. Pat Roach as Kale, Commander Kale, the villainous leader of the army. He
reminds me of like the badass dudes in Conan who are just the silent enforcers.
Yeah, he doesn't have a ton of dialogue. He doesn't look like what you think he's going to look like when he takes the helmet off. He's got big red mutton chops. I've got more people listed like Gavin O'Hearley that plays Eric Thauber. But really, there's not a lot of other performances.
Yeah, this movie is really focused around Warwick Davis and Val Kilmer.
I suppose we probably should mention those brownies. We kind of crapped on them. Kevin Pollak and Rick Overton are Rule and Frangine, the two brownies.
Okay. I mean, they're funny.
Awful performances that I just hate.
Yeah, we got Jar Jar A and Jar Jar B.
No. They did their assignment too. I just don't like brownies. Yeah. It's just I do like goblins. I don't like brownies. Those are just some of my feelings on Fantasy World.
So I mean, that's it. Mm-hmm. You want to go ahead and give your personal highlight?
Sure. I mean, to me, my personal highlight is the escape from the enemy camp where they're up in the mountains.
Mm-hmm. It's a badass scene.
And Mad Mardigan gets the love potion thrown in his face or whatever. He falls in love with Sorsha. They have a really funny scene together, and then he comes out of the tent, and it's the first time that you see him actually get a sword in his hands. He's been talking up until this point about how he's like the greatest swordsman that ever lived, and you just think he's full of shit, and then he actually gets a sword, and like it's the first time you actually see Mad Mardigan like in his full power, and he just starts chopping down these guys, and it's just so much fun. And then they sled down the mountain, and it's just an exciting adventure movie battle in the snow. And every time I think about this movie, this is the sequence I think about.
Oh, okay, that's cool. I mean, I really like that scene, and that was in my top few scenes when I was thinking about what was mine. But I opted to go with the scene where they meet Val Kilmer, where they meet Mad Mardigan on the road in the cage.
It's a good one too.
I love that scene. It's a pure role play scene. Like there's no combat, there's no action. It's all drama, and it's extremely funny. Like I think that Val Kilmer in this movie proves that he's a decent action actor, but he's an excellent dramatic actor
and comedic actor. Yeah, he does everything.
Funny, and I think that that scene really highlighted. He goes from mean to pleading to funny. He does it all in one scene. And I think that was probably my favorite part of the movie.
Do you know what my favorite little detail in that scene is? When they first see him in the crow cage, his teeth are all black,
brown,
right?
Yeah, they're gnarly.
And so he gets like a little rag and he polishes up his teeth so that he can use his smile for his charm rolls. And I just love the detail. Like you see him like cleaning his teeth. Like he's like, they think I'm scary looking. And he's trying to put it on. Give me the baby. You need someone to take the baby.
I'm a person.
I'm a person. I can do it. Yeah. And I mean, he does just so well in that scene.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah. So what worked for you?
So this is like, I love Lord of the Rings, and I love D&D, and I love fantasy, and this is that. And when I was a kid, this was really awesome. Like I loved this movie. And I think that this genre, this movie is a good example of this genre. It's very classic, and so I count that in the win column. I think the sets are a highlight. The castles, the villages, the tavern, the buildings, everything was really, really realistic. It was excellently done.
Yeah.
And then finally, I think that the acting was a very strong point. I think Val Kilmer and Warwick Davis really proved that they were excellent actors in this movie.
Yeah. I'm just going to reiterate basically all of that. I think Warwick Davis and Val Kilmer, just buckets of charisma. Both of them are so watchable. And, Val Kilmer's just one of my all-time favorite guys. Like you said a long time ago, you thought that Henry Cavill was like sort of the peak good-looking man. Like Val Kilmer's that for me. Like it's like, Val Kilmer, that's a good-looking dude right there. Man crush on Val Kilmer all the way. Phil Tippett's Creatures. I love the two-headed penis dragon. I think he's great. The death dogs are so creepy.
They're really cool.
I just love all of that stuff. I'm not big on the trolls, but they're okay. The trolls are okay. And Barbara Lane's costumes. I think this movie is just very well costumed. In particular, Commander Kale's skull helmet is the coolest thing, and Mad Mardigan's gold armor that he finds awesome. In the abandoned castle. Yeah, awesome. But what didn't work?
I already said it, but this movie was bookended with a boring beginning and a boring end.
Yeah.
I thought that Dollar Store Galadriel looked super fake. The green screen, blue screen, whatever they're doing, it didn't look good.
Yeah.
It just didn't look good. It would have been better to have a misty scene with an actress acting and put some gels on the cameras or something. Yeah. I don't know, but it just didn't look good. I also didn't think that this call to action had any nuance. It was all just totally ham-fisted. Like, you're going to do it because I say you're going to do it, and I'm the fairy queen lady, blah, blah, blah.
And he's kind of already
He was already going to do it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, man, cut that shit. It was not good.
Yeah. I'd rather lose Dollar Store Galadriel and get Sorsha's story.
Scene. Yeah. And I think that generally speaking, the CG, not the CG where they were like doing the morphs and stuff, that was pretty cool. But their use of, I think green screen, because that's what we do now. But when I watched the making of
it was
blue screen.
It's older technology.
Yeah, all the blue screen stuff looked fucking fake. Like it looked like you cut them out of a magazine and pasted them on a painting.
Yeah.
And
you watched it on Disney Plus, right? That's where I watched it.
No, I watched it on YouTube.
Oh, on YouTube. I imagine like if you bought the 4K remastered Blu-ray or whatever,
I watched the high definition version.
I know, but those Blu-rays are cleaned up to a level that the stuff you stream isn't. That might look better if you have a better copy.
I don't know, man. It looked like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I mean, that's really what
it's the same
brownies
time.
Look like. Yeah, they were made basically the same time.
Uh-huh.
And it was like the brownies and miscellaneous stuff that was blue screened on.
Yeah.
I know that they thought it was just going to be fucking killer. It wasn't killer.
Okay.
And then lastly, the Double Dong Dragon.
You don't like...
Lame. Worst dragon in this whole series.
Well, there's only been 2.
Yeah, this one's the worst one.
Well, I was going to ask
I'm going to call the snake, the giant snake in Conan. I'm going to say that qualifies
as
also
a dragon.
Cooler than this.
Oh, I won't go that far. I mean, between Vermithrax, yes, obviously.
Yeah, Vermithrax is a classic.
Yeah,
Nobody
but
fucks with
I like the
Vermithrax.
double dick dragon, I think.
I don't like him. All right, what didn't work for you?
So what didn't work for me, false endings are a pet peeve of mine.
I hate that. In music, in movies, in books, in everything.
Yeah, so I really hate when you have the final battle and... then Skullface guy rides off with the baby so we can siege a second castle. Yep. Like it's the sense there's this repetition thing that and you have to assume like this is intended to be a family film, right? So you're trying to show this to kids. This is where you lose a lot of your kids because they got all the way up to the top of their excitement level. And then you bring them back down and try and ramp them back up again. I just think that almost never works in a film, and it doesn't work here. Nope. It's very Tolkien derivative, even more than Dragon Slayer, which already felt very Tolkien derivative.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Nelwyns are obviously hobbits. Rizal and Bavmorda have the Saruman Gandalf wizard battle, like almost beat for beat. You know, like we talked about the Galadriel in the woods. I can't even remember what the fairy queen's name was. And it just felt like you took the big beats out of Lord of the Rings. And I think that cutting Sorsha's story hurt the film. I think it hurt the storytelling of the film because her face turn seems like it's out of nowhere. It's like, oh, so she just fell in love with this guy and decided to become a good guy. No one would accept you into the army like that way. Like, now I'm going to join your good army. And they'd be like, you're obviously a spy for the evil queen.
Yeah, it's like, no, you're not.
Yeah. And so I think cutting her story made some sort of dissonance in the storytelling. But those are my negatives. What's your rating?
I gave it a 3. It's a solid 3. Like, watch this if you like fantasy movies. I consider a 3 to be a solid qualified recommend, not an unqualified recommend, which is 4. A 3 is if you like fantasy or this sort of hero's journey appeals to you, go ahead and watch it. But if you're not a fantasy movie person, don't watch this. You won't like it.
I think I'm with you there at a 3. I haven't been able. I really wanted to be at a 4, and I could just never quite talk myself up to it.
It's just not there.
It's like a 3.25. It's like a strong 3 to me.
It's a 7.2 on IMDb and 53% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oof.
So yeah, slightly over. It's 3.6 in IMDb and a 2.5 on Rotten Tomatoes. So a 3 is about right.
It's about right. Yeah. It's just, I just hate to give something I've got such fond memories.
I still like it. That's the thing. It's a 3, but I still like it. I dislike about an hour of this movie.
That much?
And I love about an hour of it. It's hard. It's hard to
I like the middle of this movie an awful lot.
Yeah, I like all the Mad Mardigan and Willow scenes. I don't like the rest of them.
Okay. Well, normally we take a break here, but I've got more questions.
Oh, snap.
Like, how do you rank these 5 movies?
Oh, man, I can't even remember the 5 movies.
So I will remind you of what the 5 movies are. Excalibur,
okay,
Dragon Slayer, Conan, Highlander, and Willow.
Oh, man, that's really tough. I'm going to have to go with... it's hard to choose a number 1 because I like them for so much different things. And really, I love Highlander, but it doesn't feel like it belongs with the rest because it's a modern Swords and Sorcery movie. But anyway...
It's the one you rated the highest.
Yeah, I'm going to go Highlander, Conan, Excalibur, Dragon Slayer, Willow.
Ooh, Willow at the bottom. Okay.
That's the worst one.
Okay.
I mean, I like them all, though. That's the thing.
Yeah. So...
Man, I could almost swap Willow and Dragon Slayer, but I think I gave Dragon Slayer a 3 as well.
Yeah, and so did I.
But it has Vermithrax.
Vermithrax pejorative. The worm of Thrace that makes things worse. Yeah.
So good.
I went... this is more different than I expected our list to be. Conan's number 1 for me. Highlander number 2. Willow number 3. Dragon Slayer 4. And Excalibur 5.
How dare you?
I knew you'd say that.
How dare you put Excalibur last? It's classic.
Here's what I'll tell you. Out of all of these movies, I watched Excalibur twice. Like,
because you liked it that much.
No, because I think it is cinematically the most interesting.
It's a very important movie, too.
It's a very important movie stylistically, and I think the film craft in that movie is just superb. And so I didn't mind sitting through it twice, but it was the one I enjoyed the least out of them.
It reminded me of like when I watched Green Knight, it reminded me of Excalibur, like in a good way.
Yeah, there's a lot of Excalibur and Green Knight. It's a very influential movie. Ron Howard he mentions it in some of the behind the scenes stuff as saying like Excalibur is a cool movie, but there hasn't been a big hit fantasy movie, and so like. Excalibur was on his mind when he's making this movie. I think it's extremely influential and has great film craft, but I just don't like it.
Okay, so I mean, my list is very much a what do I like? I don't know if I consider, and I know 90% of people would disagree with me that Highlander is better than Conan the Barbarian. But I like it better. But I really like Conan the Barbarian.
There's no doubt that those are the best movies on this list in my mind.
Easily.
Like they're the most well crafted out of these 5 movies.
Yeah, they're all awesome.
So then I have a series of ratings lists. First up, Best Old Wizard.
Oh, Best Old Wizard.
Yeah. So we've got to choose from. We've got Merlin, Ulrich, Akiro. We're counting, that's the wizard from Conan. We're counting Ramirez as the wizard because that's the role he plays in the story. And then we've got a double old wizard in this movie because we have High Aldwin and Finn Rizal.
Yeah. There's a lot of wizards in this, in Willow. This is tough because I absolutely love Ramirez. But I actually don't really think of him as the best wizard. He's like the best father figure. I don't know. The best wizard is Merlin.
Merlin's a strong choice. I mean, I'm going to follow my heart, and it's Akiro from Conan.
I do love him. He's
hilarious. Like, he's the one, whenever we're playing role-playing games and people are having a wizard battle, I think of the way he wizard battles, where he does like the mudras with his fingers, and he goes and kind of chants. Like that is how I imagine wizard battles happen ever since then. Who is the best hero? King Arthur, Galen from Dragon Slayer, Conan the Barbarian, Connor McLeod, or Willow Ulfgood?
Conan the Barbarian. I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. I think he's my favorite. Best wingman. Sir
Mardigan.
Sir Lancelot. You don't even want to hear it?
Go ahead.
Sir Lancelot. Old Hodge.
Damn it, Old Hodge got done dirty.
He really did. Subotai.
I do love Subotai.
Castigear, he got done even dirtier, I think. Like, he shows up and hugs Connor McLeod, and then the Kurgan takes his head.
Rip.
And Mad Mardigan.
Yeah, Mad Mardigan.
It's Mad Mardigan. It's obviously Mad Mardigan. Best warrior woman. I'm upgrading Guinevere. She's not really a warrior in this movie, but she's as close as we got in Excalibur. Valeria, Brenda Wyatt, or Sorsha.
Man, those are tough because not a lot of them are. I mean, Sorsha. It's got to be Sorsha.
You say Sorsha? Yeah. I'll go Valeria from Conan.
Yeah, I like Valeria a lot.
She chops some fools.
She's really cool. Just like Sorsha, I just wish we had a little more story.
And she comes back as a Valkyrie to save Conan.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah. Best evil warrior. Mordred. Tyrion. Thorgrim / Rexor. Either one of them.
Sure.
The Kurgan.
Oh, God.
Or Commander Kale.
Fuck, that's so hard. I love all of these characters. They're so good. Even Tyrion, who not as good. Still, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough one because how can Mordred and the Kurgan? When I was a kid,
those are your favorites.
I fucking love those characters. But I'm gonna go with the Kurgan.
Yeah, it's Kurgan all the way.
Mordred is a little weirder. He's kind of a strange.
His weird baby face armor and everything.
And he's just like a weirdo evil guy.
Yeah.
So I got to go with Kurgan, who's just unbridled evil.
The Kurgan is definitely the best evil warrior, but it was a hard choice. Best evil wizard, witch, or dragon. Morgana, Vermithrax, Tulsa Doom, or Bavmorda.
Fuck, that's so hard because Morgana is awesome. Vermithrax is so awesome. Thulsa Doom is amazing. These is so hard. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go with my gut and say Morgana.
Ooh, good choice. I'll go Thulsa Doom.
Yeah, it's hard.
Think about this on the tree of woe.
Exactly.
Crucify him. Yeah, I love Tulsa Doom.
That character so well.
Now, I'm going to give you a real hard one. Build a D&D party. A 5-person D&D party out of characters from these movies.
Oh, man. 5-person D&D party. That's... Well, first of all, you got to have a tank. You got to have... So we're going to go Conan the Barbarian.
Good. Yeah.
5-person. You got to have someone to... You got to have a wizard, and I think we should probably include... Oh, man. So I'm thinking good guys. I could include evil guys, too, but they wouldn't get along.
You got to build a party that's going to work.
That's going to work. I think Conan is an auto keeper, and I think the best actual wizard is Merlin. So if you need a wizard, I mean, I would choose Subotai because he can raise the dead, and you kind of want that.
Yeah.
But no, I'm going to go Conan and Merlin. You also need to have somebody who is like a rogue, so Subotai.
Okay.
You need that. I think probably the person that can do it all. He's smart. He's a good fighter. totally well-rounded dude, Ramirez.
Oh, nice.
Ramirez, because he get along with everybody.
Okay.
And he's good at everything. So we've got a wizard, we've got a heavy fighter, we've got a thief, we've got a well-rounded guy, kind of the bard of the party. Mm-hmm. And then I guess the last slot, because we don't have any like, there are no like priests that can raise the dead or anything. You just go with another badass, right?
Okay.
So I think we go with oh man, what was it? What was the name? What was his name? The knight from Excalibur that defeated everybody as they were trying to cross the river, cross the bridge.
Oh, Lancelot.
Yeah. So we add Lancelot so we can have our full plate guy.
Okay.
Who's just an unassailable warrior. Between him and Conan, they can handle anybody.
That's yeah. No, that's true. That's really true. So Conan, Merlin, Subutai, Lancelot, and Ramirez.
Yeah.
That's a good squad.
Yeah, I would roll with those guys.
Yeah. So here's mine. All
right.
Conan.
Okay.
Mad Mardigan.
Yeah, he's
Subutai. Percival from Excalibur.
Oh, okay, because he's true. Like he's
good at quests, man. Like he
doesn't give up.
He found the Holy Grail.
He's a last man standing.
When everyone gave up, Percival kept going.
Okay, I should have chose Percival.
And my wild card, Morgana.
Oh man,
I used her for my spellcaster.
That's true. She gets along with everybody.
And I think she's like one of the most misunderstood characters in mythology. I don't think she's full bad, and I think she'd be a good wizard for that squad.
Yeah, she would know that it's good to have these idiots around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need a smart woman on the party. Like that's just required. The only thing I just thought could Percival do the thieving and stuff? And I just sort of thought he's pretty scrappy when Lancelot picks him up at the beginning.
Yeah.
So
if you had Subutai as well.
Yeah,
he can handle.
And he's See, I got him because he's the archer, and he was the only kind of ranged fighter in the.
That's true.
Well, Sorsha, but so Sorsha has a quiver of arrows on her back
that she never uses.
You never see her shoot them. Yeah. So I was like, I know Subutai can actually use his bow and arrow.
And the arrows never move in the quiver. They're like glued in.
They're glued into it. Yeah. I think she was a fake archer. Yeah. I like your party, though. I think that was a good D&D party.
Yeah, I think that would work out pretty well.
Okay. Well, do you want to take a break and we'll come back with our final segment?
Yeah.
Welcome back, divers. It's time for our final segment, the one where I ask Dave, what are you into right now?
Well, I've been doing a lot of painting of Warhammer 40K and doing a lot of stuff. I got this new orc army that I'm working on and
looking
all of
pretty
that.
Cool.
But I know that the divers, most of them don't play, and that's okay. And I got to thinking the other day. I was on Instagram, and you know how or maybe it was Facebook, I don't know, but you know how you'll get those reels or whatever. They're so short, TikTok style rip off videos, just a short video that kind of mesmerizes your brain, and you don't even know how long you've been watching it or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was a guy who was changing horseshoes.
Oh,
and he was
farrier videos,
putting in there's like a plastic piece, and then they squirted in foam and stuff. And I got to thinking, I don't ride horses. I don't even particularly like horses. I mean, I don't hate them, but I mean, whatever. Yeah. I'm not the target demo, but I'm watching this. So that is how and why I think the divers would be interested in my YouTube recommendation today. Okay. Even if you're not a gamer, a Warhammer person, a modeler, a painter, if you go to the YouTube channel called eBay Miniature Rescues, you're going to love it. Even if you don't, if you've ever watched any of those restoration videos of things where they find something in a garbage dump and they fix it up or whatever.
Yeah.
It's awesome. This dude trolls eBay and he finds the gnarliest, shittiest painted minis or botched conversions or weird things, and he buys them and he then shows you the box art. What's it supposed to look like?
Right.
What does it look like? he paint strips them, he fixes the modeling, or he'll change it to make it somehow. Usually he tries to, if the person did a bad conversion and it looks like crap, he'll try to do their vision of a conversion, but good.
Yeah.
Like, and so I love that. And the guy is really nice. He's a chill dude, and he strips the paint and he does all this, and then he repaints them and he shows you like a cool reveal at the end. It's very satisfying, the whole thing. And he just got to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's a really great YouTube channel for anybody to just watch these really satisfying videos. I listen to his podcast as well. I really like the guy from eBay Miniature Rescue and the guy from Goobertown Hobbies, which is another hobbyism channel. They have a podcast called Paint Bravely, and I listen to Paint Bravely, and I really like these guys. And I thought, the divers would not like Paint Bravely because they probably don't care about different kinds of paint and things like I do. Anyway, but I think anybody and everybody could watch eBay Miniature Rescues and find it to be quite interesting.
I've watched, what's his name? Squidmar do similar things.
Yeah, I watch Squidmar every video. He's great. His diorama videos that he builds, and Squidmar has been one of my recommendations on this podcast. So
that's probably why I started watching his videos. I had
to choose a new person to recommend, and I think that it's universally applicable. Like if I found myself watching a farrier video, other people might find themselves hypnotized by the fixing of models and the deconstruction and reconstruction.
I'm very interested in that. And I also I've talked about watching hoof trimming videos. So I'm also deep into that too, for whatever reason.
Yeah. And he has lots of videos and they're not timely. So you can literally scroll and be like, oh, orcs.
Yeah.
Boom. Orc.
And watch it. Yeah.
Something I think is cool. Okay. Watch it.
I'll watch
he loves goblins, just so you know.
Okay.
He's very pro goblin.
Man, so just weird tangent. So we were at the park, Orchards Park, doing a little Pokemon the other day, and there was people boffer fighting over there. Guard group. And we overheard this conversation about goblins as a group was like leaving to go to their car, and they were talking about how weak goblins are and blah blah blah. And I was like, it's more of this just goblin hate. Like, why do people always have to talk shit about goblins?
Nice. I like the LARP kids. They're great.
Look like they're having a good time.
Yeah. So what are you into right now?
So I just recently finished a new fantasy novel, or it was new to me. It came out last year from writer Marlon James, and this is Moon Witch Spider King. And I don't want to say it's not a sequel to Black Leopard Red Wolf. It is the second part of a planned trilogy, and it's a parallel story, or it actually starts quite a bit before, like probably 170 years before the story in Black Leopard Red Wolf.
Interesting.
And it's focused on the character Sogalone, who is sort of one of the antagonists in Black Leopard Red Wolf, but it's her life story. It's much more linear than Black Leopard Red Wolf. It doesn't use the sort of same framing device that book did, where he's giving testimony or giving a statement.
Yeah. I found that to be a little jarring.
Yeah, and I think you would like this book more than that book. I've been recommending this one to Lisa because I think she would also like this one more.
Did she read the last one?
She didn't. She said she started it and couldn't get into it either.
Yeah, I got more. I did more than start. I got like halfway.
Did you get halfway into it?
I got halfway.
And it just didn't get you.
I found myself when I picked up my phone to hit play, like looking to my music app instead.
Okay.
And I was like, nah, I don't like it. You don't force yourself to do things that are leisure. That's stupid.
Yeah. If you're not into it, there's too much stuff to force yourself to listen to something you're not into. I have
negative feelings about it. I just don't have any positive ones either.
Yeah. So she starts out as like a poor girl who's chained up in a termite mound, essentially, and abused by her brothers, and just has like
Her brothers are termites?
No, her brothers are just mean dicks. Is really what it is. And their parents are dead. And the mother died in childbirth, and she got the blame for it. And kind of anytime a woman does anything wrong in this world, she's a witch, right? And so she is kind of blamed for her mother's death and is sort of ostracized. And she just has this kind of incredible hero's journey where she finds herself actually like in the court of the queen of their kingdom. And like it's just a really great fantasy novel set in a fantasy setting that is based on African history and mythology as opposed to Western Europe history and mythology. And it takes a long ass time before it intersects with the other book. I thought the two were going to happen parallel to each other and bump into each other a lot more, but it is not until like maybe the back fifth or 2/5 of the book that it starts intersecting with the characters from the other book. And yeah, I mean, I really liked this. I might have liked it more than the first book, and I think it is more broadly appealing than the first book. If you were put off by the sexual content of the other book, there is sexual content in this book, and it's not on the level, even to me, of a Game of Thrones. I think there's way more in that, but if you're listening to an audiobook at work and it starts talking about banging it out, it's like, you're like, oh, I'll turn the volume down.
Oh, yeah. Have your headphones in.
It's like, oh, I hope no one heard that. But I just really like this. And I have no idea what the third book is going to hold. Hopefully, because the two narratives don't quite line up with each other. Like they dispute each other's take on what happened. So hopefully
unreliable narrators.
Yeah, two unreliable narrators. Hopefully the third book kind of brings a cohesion to it. And Michael B. Jordan bought the rights to adapt this stuff for Warner Brothers for movies. And I have no idea how he's going to do it, but I'm very curious to see what he does.
Huh. That's cool.
All right. Well, you want to give him the call to action?
Launching this October,
Nightshade Cult, a podcast macabre.
So this is the end.
This is it. This is the final episode of Nick and Dave Deep Dive the Metaverse, as we've been kind of teasing for the last several episodes.
We're done.
Yeah, I mean, but we're not done podcasting. We're just sort of done beating this horse. Yeah. The metaverse is not hospitable as it once was.
And the reality is, when we started this podcast, we wanted it to be anything we wanted it to be. Mm-hmm. We chose a name that was very vague and not pointed toward anything. It could be anything. And early in several episodes, we just said, we'll just talk about whatever we want to talk about, which is perfect. And it took us... we've done, this is episode 74. We have an episode 0 and a 2.5. So we have 76 episodes on file. Mm-hmm. I think we figured out how to podcast.
Yeah. At this point, we can do a tight 90 minutes without looking at our clocks.
Yeah. Easy peasy. So we decided that we're going to have an agenda, a theme, a style, and a defined subject matter.
Yeah, a little more focused. If you, especially in the early episodes, if you looked at the original podcast, it almost seemed like we were throwing darts at a random board for picking
anything
topics.
We like.
Yeah. And so Dave and I were brainstorming the other day, and he says, I think I could live in the spooky sphere for the rest of my life, or something like that, to that effect.
Yeah, I've been a spooky boy since I was a boy, and I probably always will be. So Nightshade Cult is going to be a podcast about this similar ideas and topics that we've covered here and there.
Yeah.
Where we've done horror movies, or we've talked about spookier things like Stranger Things or whatever. Yeah. But we're going to keep it on theme the whole time.
Yeah, we're going to get a little more or a lot more focused in, and hopefully that helps find a particular audience. Because when you're jumping all over the board, maybe people are only interested in just one episode here or there.
Yeah, and we're looking for people who are also interested in this sort of train of thought, and we think that it's a lot easier for us to market a focused idea.
Yeah,
and reality is that, as we mentioned in the last episode, with the metaverse getting bought up by Zuckerberg, we're squashed and there is no marketing. So we want to be a little more promotable, and I think focus is a huge part of that.
A little more promotable, a little less suppressible.
Not shadow banned.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're going to launch October 1st. We'll have a 0 episode September 15th, a bit ahead of that. And coming October 1st, we'll drop our first 3 episodes all at once. And we're going to cover the sort of 90s monster cycle: Bram Stoker's Dracula, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and Wolf.
Yeah, these are going to be really good kind of indicators of the direction we're looking to go. We're going to have some new segments on the show, some familiar segments that are a little changed, and we're going to have a lot more. What I would say production value. Going to try to have more sound effects or music sometimes in the background, low, so it's not just dead air. I think that overall it's going to be a fun adventure for you guys who are listening now, the divers. You won't have to change anything. Our RSS isn't going to change. You can, if you've already got us on your favorite podcatcher and all of that, it's just going to change in the backside. It'll repopulate a new name and a new logo and new graphics. I can't wait to share those with you guys.
Yeah.
And we're going to have all of our socials will be switched over at some point before October 1st.
Yeah, I'll give this probably through maybe August 15th. I'll change everything over.
Yeah.
And we're only going to be missing two release dates essentially, and then we'll be right back.
Yeah, we're missing 2 release dates, but we're also dropping 3 at once.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We're not really going to miss any release dates, but we want a little bit of time for us to get all of this built up, get it all swapped over, and then it's just going to be releasing as per normal.
Yeah. So. In the future, we didn't want to send you to a bunch of socials that have changed. You will just find us on all social media platforms across the metaverse as Nightshade Cult, and we'll be on all of them. I'll even sign us up for Blue Sky. I've been holding off because I didn't want to.
And Threads.
Well, we're on Threads.
Oh, okay.
Because it spins off of your Instagram,
okay,
and so
gotcha.
But I didn't want to start a Blue Sky account and then immediately change the name like a month later. So we'll get on Blue Sky. We're hanging in there on X, and we're on Threads.
Oh man, X.
I knew it was coming, but still, because I always look at X first thing in the morning, and when the bird was gone and the X was there, I was like, really did it.
I removed it from my home screen.
Did you?
I did.
I hate to see it. I hate to see the X.
Well, I guess this is really goodbye.
Don't say goodbye. Say good journey.